There's no doubt that this environment is changing. The level of activity is increasing in the Arctic.
If there's a military threat against Canadian sovereignty, then the military is mandated to respond to that.
Navigating in ice is something that the Canadian Navy hasn't done in over 50 years.
Army, Navy, and Air Force work as a joint integrated team. That's what Operation Nanook is all about.
This is the Canadian Arctic. Massive, barren, and inhospitable. Since the late 1400s, explorers have searched here for a shipping route from Europe to Asia. John Cabot couldn't find this Northwest Passage. Neither could John Franklin. For many, the attempt ended in death. For all, the attempt ended in failure. But in the last decade, global warming has vastly reduced the polar ice cap. The elusive Northwest Passage is beginning to reveal itself. The eyes of the world are turning to the north.
There's no doubt that this environment is changing. The level of activity is increasing in the Arctic. The space for longer periods of the navigable season is available for activity, and activity rates are going up. We are seeing more vessels operating in the Arctic.
Scientists estimate that a wide-open summer shipping season is less than 5 years away. Soon this region could be jammed with cargo freighters. Illegal shipping activities and man-made hazards like the Exxon Valdez disaster are now a very real possibility. If Canada is to control this region, it needs to do it now. Today, a sovereignty mission dubbed Operation Nanook will take place on the southeast coastline of Baffin Island, near Iqaluit, in the Canadian territory of Nunavut. It's a military show of force. The message is clear. Canada has the might, the skill, and the will to control the Arctic.
Sovereignty is this country saying that we have the right to establish the rules, tell you how you should operate, and enforce those rules in an exclusive fashion. We make the rules ourselves, and we require that people obey them.
The Canadian forces are well-trained and highly skilled at what they do. But operating up here in the Arctic is a whole new ballgame. Nothing can be taken for granted in this remote part of the world. The only way to learn how to work up here is to come up here.
Operation Nanook is just one in a series of exercises that we're doing. We're doing them more frequently than we have in the past. We're making them more complicated every time we do them. So we're pushing the envelopes on how well we can operate a long, long way from home. Strangely, this is our own country, but it's a long, long way from where this ship is based.
We're in the Arctic because Canada is a maritime nation, and Canada is bordered by 3 oceans. And the Canadians have always looked to the north with a sense that we are a northern nation. Our gross domestic product is largely influenced by trade from and to and from on the sea. So it's important for the Canadian Navy to be able to operate in all 3 of our oceans.
The big guns are here. An infantry of soldiers, HMCS Corner Brook, a long-range hunter-killer submarine, and HMCS Toronto, a warfaring frigate. The Canadian forces have assigned HMCS Toronto to take the lead role in this sovereignty mission. In the future, this high-tech frigate will patrol these Arctic waters for pirates, smugglers, and ships in distress.
Toronto is one of 12 Halifax-class frigates. She was commissioned in 1993. Multi-purpose, combat-capable ship, 5,000 tons, 2 General Electric LM2500 engines producing 50,000 horsepower, which gives her a lot of power, a lot of maneuverability. She's well armed, layered in defense for surface and anti-air warfare. So very capable platform, capable of accomplishing a variety of roles, a good command and control system, a good communication suite, We practice regularly plugging in with coalition fleets. We've worked with Americans in the Persian Gulf, so we are very valued partners in several allied coalitions.
HMCS Toronto is a world-class warship based in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Although this mission is in Canadian waters, it's still a treacherous environment for a warship. Even the journey here is dangerous.
Navigating in ice is something that the Canadian Navy hasn't done in over 50 years. And it's particularly challenging for the current fleet that the Canadian Navy has, because none of our ships have any ice capability whatsoever. So although you look around right now and there's no ice visible, the conditions change up here very quickly. And in fact, during the transit up here, Toronto had to go very slowly and very cautiously through a number of ice fields in order to avoid hitting anything. Visibility can drop in a matter of minutes. Icebergs and fog are a pretty dangerous combination of hazards for us.
This ship isn't designed as an icebreaker. It's a class Echo hull, so the steel is very thin, and it is designed for North Atlantic. We can survive quite a bit in bad weather, but we're not an icebreaker. We don't go through an ice field essentially.
We definitely are up here because of to work out some of our issues with the environment. A good example is the first 3 days or more we were here, it was foggy and misty and cold. So we had to rig our fog dodger, and we actually had people manning that 24/7 while we're going through the fog at slow speed, looking for. It's actually not the icebergs we're looking for, because they are detected by our radars. It's the we call them burgie bits. They're about a house size or smaller, and those would do a lot of damage to the ship if we hit them at speed.
Dodging icebergs that can punch a hole in the side of a frigate is nerve-wracking, but it's just the beginning. The Arctic seabed is almost completely uncharted.
We're safe if we just keep going straight, but definitely do not come to port further.
Yeah, make this to come starboard.
Yeah.
We're in a narrow area of Frobisher Bay. Now, when this area was explored quite a while ago, they essentially did soundings to find out the depth of water. Now, where we are, they've only did the soundings to a certain width of water. So we know for sure what the depth of water is in that area. We don't know, for example, what it is a mile away from us right now. So what we do is we stay within that area, because the other areas haven't been touched. Nobody's really sure of what the depth is or if there's a rock there.
All right, we're now at the edge of the soundings.
Yards opening.
Very good.
And you probably only have about 250 yards safe water.
On a chart, when there used to be no soundings, they draw dragons out in the empty spots, right? So that's the whole expression. There be dragons, is you're going where there are no soundings, which for warship or any ship is very dangerous, because you don't know how much water will be under your keel when you're in that area.
The Arctic dragons could be spires of hull-shredding rock. They could be enemy submarines. Their looming possibility makes for an uncomfortable operations room. The ship's best defense is sonar. It helps the crew locate icebergs and other vessels operating in the region. But the system isn't foolproof. The sound of cracking ice can throw off sonar signals. And these waters are teeming with whales. Each time the ship's sonar identifies even one whale, the crew is mandated to turn it off.
It's a different operating area, so it's we have strict regulations for our hull-mounted sonar. So the pinging noise you heard today going through the water, if there's any mammals in the area, we cease that so we don't affect the animals.
Shutting off sonar equipment in uncharted water is like off-roading with no headlights. It leaves no margin for error. While it's hard to get here, it's even harder to be here.
We're moving a fairly substantial number of men and women of the Canadian Forces. into a very austere environment. And I would say that it is as hard to do that thousands of miles away from bases in southern Canada as it is to deploy our forces to Afghanistan. The threat in Afghanistan is violence of the enemy. The threat here is the environment, which can change rapidly with almost no warning.
In less than 24 hours, the Army, Navy, and Air Force will attempt a simulated crisis relief operation in the tiny northern community of Iqaluit. An infantry of soldiers from HMCS Toronto will take command of Iqaluit's Apex Beach. It sounds simple, but there are no charts here. No one has ever created soundings along this isolated coastline. The tidal range is huge, more than 25 feet. For the infantry shuttle boats to land safely, the port inspection dive team must brave the freezing Arctic waters to create maps of the seafloor from scratch.
Our job is to basically get the boats into the shore safely, and so they can land the troops safely, preferably dry and in the best orderly condition possible, so they can carry on their job ashore. They have suits and they have depth plumb lines, and now we're confirming that they'll have enough water and free access in. Russ!
Good.
Matt!
Good.
I think we've leveled out. Matt!
Good.
Don!
Good.
Okay, you can move over to the other lane.
This is as low-tech as it gets. The divers measure the depth with a string and a lead weight. Each diver covers a specific lane, shouting out their measurements. This low-tech approach is deliberate. Electronic equipment can fail, and these guys must know how to do this operation with the most basic of tools. The process is painstaking, but the data is crucial.
If the bottom looked like the shore, the boats could hit rocks, damage the boats, could affect the landing, could affect the speed. And also contours, like if there's a sandbar, they run into a sandbar and the boat can't go any further ashore, then either they can't land the soldiers or the soldiers have to walk in the water ashore, which is never good when you're going to be tenting it for a few days.
These divers have spent hours in the freezing cold water to mark 2 boat channels. Lothian tries to account for the coastal tidal range here, 3 times the global average.
One of the challenges of Iqaluit is huge tides. Like, we're dealing with 25-foot tides. So the difference between landing at an appropriate tide and an inappropriate tide is huge. And I mean, we have already found rocks out here that are 6 feet off the bottom. So if we only have 7 feet of water, they're going to hit the rock. If we happen to have 10 feet of water with only a 3-foot draft on the boat, then we now know that they can safely on this tide come in. Okay guys, we're good.
Today, the Canadian Army, Navy, and Air Force will work together to transport an infantry of soldiers from HMCS Toronto to Apex Beach in Iqaluit. This will test the military's ability to respond to a crisis in an isolated northern community. Shipping traffic is picking up here, and a disaster like the Exxon Valdez is a very real possibility. Canada is claiming sovereignty over this Arctic area. That means proving to the world that our military has the chops to operate in this harsh environment.
Proceed to shore, over.
Operation Nanook is training all of us to work together for contingency operations or crisis operations in the north, for instance. Let's say a catastrophic activity, some kind of an explosion, some kind of a natural disaster in a community like this, which would be immediately overwhelmed by trying to deal with that, whether it be hospital capacity or whatever the case may be, and we're going to have to pull out all the stops in order to provide them the support they need to deal with that. So that's why everything is challenging up here.
The commander of Joint Task Force North very cleverly designed scenarios to force different components of the Canadian Forces, Army and Navy and Air Force, to come together to work as a joint integrated team.
The mission is simple. The soldiers have to reach the shore safely in rigid-hulled inflatable boats, or ribs. Once they've landed, they'll hike deep into the Arctic tundra for 4 days of survival training. But simple does not mean easy. Hypothermia in minus 50 degrees Celsius temperatures can kill a man. Getting wet during the landing is a mistake that can cost a soldier his life. The port inspection dive team is outfitted to help the infantry stay dry and stay alive.
I can't overemphasize the safety aspect. If a rib flipped with an infantryman with an 80-pound pack and he got pinned underneath that rib because of surf conditions, we'd be able to mitigate it, the horrible happening.
The weather here can change in an instant. If it does, the Sea King is Plan B.
We would use the Sea King or rely on the Sea King if we had to get a team ashore really quick. If something happened that we had to get somebody on shore ahead of schedule, they can get them in really quick. For some larger equipment needed to be brought ashore, they can sling the equipment and land it ashore. If we had to get somebody back out to the boats really quick, it's just use the lifting power and our speed to our advantage.
The clock is ticking. The tide here has a 25-foot drop. The landing operation has just begun, and the water levels are already dropping. As the tide goes out, the channels become more and more dangerous.
You've got to plan it all based on the height of tide so that it's safe for the boats to come in with a load of sailors. Underneath here is a mud flat, which you'll see at about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning will start to dry very quickly. So the timings are very important. And the divers have marked the yellow buoys, which are indicating specific rocks that are of a threat. The boats will report back to the ship that they've offloaded or onloaded. So it's all coordinated over radio as well to make sure that everything is coming together as quickly and efficiently as possible. So the boats come in, the divers will meet them, ensure they get out. The soldiers will disembark and they'll carry on to their objective.
As they land, there's a reporting process. When they disembark, they're boat teams. And at the end of the landing, when control is turned over, they'll know that everybody's ashore and accounted for.
We're going to lose the tide really quick.
Charles, you can wade out a bit and give them a bit of comfort about how deep the water is.
The tide is going out fast. Jagged rocks that were once well clear of the surface are now becoming a serious threat to the boats. Petty Officer First Class Sean Lothian must redirect the ribs around the rocks.
We're getting to a point where we only have about 3 feet over them, and we got about, the ribs and ribsters have about 1.5 feet, so we're starting to lose some of our spare room.
The operation is behind schedule. The water level in the cove is dangerously low. The rocks are a threat, and now the ribs are in danger of running aground before reaching dry land. If they want to get the remaining soldiers to shore safe and dry, they're going to have to push.
That boat's going to be high and dry really quick, eh?
The ribs can no longer make it to the shore. The dive team goes into high gear to get the last few boatloads of soldiers ashore. The last soldiers reach dry land with just minutes to spare. The mission is a success, but it was close. Now the infantry will test their stamina and skills while camping out on this rugged land for the next 4 days. This Arctic tundra is a new experience for the troops. Endless hills and rocks make for a brutal hike.
For the soldiers, you might be more familiar with operations in Afghanistan. Obviously, coming to the Canadian North is something that's entirely different. In fact, it's largely on the opposite end of the spectrum for a great part of the year. So it just gives us the complete range of climate, challenge, I would say difficulty in trying to actually get communications together and make sure that we've got all the resources up here that we need to get the information that the General requires to command us.
Delivering armed troops from the warship to the Arctic beach was challenging, but the Canadian forces are now more experienced at operating in this harsh environment. They are better prepared to respond to a crisis here. These soldiers are dry, and you can't stay warm and alive if you're wet. The frigid water is also a threat back on HMCS Toronto. Warm water survival time is measured in hours. But here in the Arctic, with the water temperature hovering around 0 degrees Celsius, the strongest swimmer can drown in less than 15 minutes. If a man falls overboard, there's no margin for error. This drill is a surprise. Right now, the crew doesn't even know if it's real or not. Within seconds, they jump into action. The Navy mandates that the crew must be able to get the victim back to the warship within 5 minutes. 50,000 horsepower engines are given the order to go full throttle in an effort to spin the 134-meter warship around.
Man overboard exercise is a great opportunity for us to train the junior Mars officers, the guys who are driving the ship. Because it's normally we're going from A to B, and all they're trying to do is go safely from A to B. It's not driving like a warship can drive. It's just, 15 knots, straight line kind of things. When you have a man overboard, he gets to get the big engines on, or big gas turbines, bring them online, and he gets to go as fast as he can with those to get the man out of the water into the boat. So it's a really good opportunity for him to drive aggressively.
The warship heels over in a sharp turn. Losing sight of the victim is deadly. Conversation stops on deck. Sailors maintain a visual on the flare. The rib is launched. The rescue team has to get to the victim quickly and carefully. There's the danger of running him over. This procedure requires the perfect combination of speed and finesse. As soon as the victim is in the boat, vital signs are checked. It's a race now to get him back to the safety of the ship. After the rib is hoisted back to the deck, a crew member jumps in to play the victim.
4 minutes, 15 seconds to get him in. Considering that you got to have him in the boat by 5, and we got him in 4:15, that's excellent.
The drill came as a shock to the ship's crew, but it was no surprise to the ship's executive officer.
I'm the person who has to test the ship's company, and when you're tired, that's when mistakes happen. And in our job, we're at sea all the time, and we don't get to pick when it's nice out or when it's bad out. So when I'm at sea in a big storm, I can't say, oh, there's a man overboard somewhere else, or someone needs help. I can't say, well, it's kind of rough out today. I'm feeling queasy. I'm not going to save you. I can't do that. My responsibility is to go and provide whatever assistance I can. So when people are tired, it's a good time to test that a bit of that.
This twin-engine anti-submarine warfare helicopter travels with the Canadian warship HMCS Toronto. She's combat ready with homing torpedoes. But here in the Arctic, she also extends the eyes and ears of the mothership. Today, Major Lonnie Fleischhacker will use the Sea King to hunt for icebergs.
searching for icebergs doesn't really work too well with the radar. They don't reflect the same way that a ship or any other vessel would. So that turns into more of just a visual search by the pilots and the air crew in the back. And for that we've got basically their own eyes looking out, or we also have gyro-stabilized binoculars, an infrared camera that helps to a certain degree, and night vision goggles that assist with some of that search. It's good training for all of us. It's the first time up here for everyone on the detachment, and just allows us to operate in an area that's a little bit outside of the normal Nova Scotian East Coast area that we're familiar with. It's not very often that we get a Sea King helicopter up here, so from our perspective here on the air detachment, we were looking to find out where we need to change the way we do business.
Up here, the weather can change in an instant. Fog and swirling Arctic winds can quickly turn calm into chaos. Landing a helicopter means battling the environment. The Sea King's sight lines are limited. The pilots can't land one without the assistance of the landing safety officer. She coaches the pilots through the dangerous work.
Basically, whenever the helicopter is doing maneuvering in the aft part of the ship, whenever they come in to land or do any evolutions over the flight deck, control of the helicopter will be passed to the landing safety officer. So I just oversee the flight deck, make sure everything's safe, keep the helicopter advised of what the wind conditions are, what the deck motion is, and I'm the one that gives them clearance to say, okay, it's safe now, you can land.
The crew practices refueling in midair. A cable is dropped down to the ship. The deck crew attach the cable to a refueling hose. The danger during this operation is a sudden gust of wind, pushing the Sea King into a collision with the ship. This would be disastrous. Despite the danger, this maneuver is vital. During rough seas, landing on the ship's deck isn't always in the cards, and knowing how to do this can save an aircrew from having to ditch into the sea.
If the landing gear on this helicopter, for whatever reason, can't come down, so they don't want to land on the deck, on the belly, that would be one. If there's another helicopter that's on our deck and we can't get it off the deck for whatever reason, anything that is contaminating the deck that's preventing the helicopter from landing on it. So they could, this is a way to keep them going, and until gives us time to sort out whatever problem we have.
The Sea King takes on fuel while hovering just a few feet from the mothership. This looks effortless, but it's not. During rough seas, a rogue wave can push the warship into the hovering chopper with catastrophic results. The aircrew and the sailors below are on high alert. They're ready to cut the chopper loose at the slightest sign of danger.
The safest place for the helicopter to be is off to the side over there. They don't want to be half over the deck or half over the water, so they'll just take it over off the side of the ship and they'll refuel over there. If there's a problem while they're refueling, they can break away and the hose will detach, and that's the safest possible location for them to be.
The tanks are now full. The Sea King side slips over the deck to return the refueling hose.
The most dangerous time for the guys that are on the deck is when they're underneath the helicopter. The helicopter could come down or, lose an engine or whatever. It's a hazardous job, and we train and we practice and, for emergencies, and you hope they don't happen. But, sometimes they do.
The Sea King crew is getting a full workout today. Next up is a vertical replenishment, military speak for the dangerous dance of picking up and delivering supplies without ever landing. This maneuver is used in disaster situations like Hurricane Katrina and the earthquake in Haiti. Knowing how to drop food, water, and medicine is a skill that can save lives in this icy terrain.
So what's happening is the helo's hovering over the deck, and it's lowering a messenger down to the deck, and the techs are going to go out and they're going to hook the messenger from the aircraft up to the strop that's connected to the load.
The 90-kilogram load, now connected to the Sea King, is lifted off the deck. The aircrew inside the chopper has absolutely no sightline below to the deck. The landing safety officer is now the eyes of the crew. It's flying blind with their lives in her hands.
All clear. Raptor, that's affirmative.
So what he's doing now is he's going to put his load down. He's going to try to drop it as close as he can to the third tee, and then he's going to release it from inside the aircraft.
All clear.
Refueling in midair is dangerous. Picking up and delivering cargo can be deadly. Both of these maneuvers are easy compared to landing a chopper on the deck of a moving ship. Gusts of wind, rogue waves, and limited sight lines are the enemies. It's up to the landing safety officer and the bear trap, a jaw-like device that snaps shut on a probe mounted below the chopper.
So you can see the steel probe sticking out of the belly, about close to the center of the aircraft. So he's going to try to put that into that trap.
The landing safety officer talks the pilots into position. If the probe misses the bear trap, the Sea King will have to take off and start the procedure all over again. For the LSO and the crew, the pressure is on.
Left. Left. Steady. Land now. Down, 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 down. In the trap.
She'll close the jaws, and now he's secured to the deck.
On the rails.
Deck crew on deck. Deck crew on deck.
During Operation Nanook, the Canadian military has called in HMCS Corner Brook. She'll play a critical role here, silently tracking and monitoring the ships operating in the region. A sub is a Navy's secret weapon. The presence of one sub can instantly tip the scales during a naval conflict.
If you had a surface fleet coming at you, all the ships have to try and find the submarine, and using resources that they wouldn't be allocating normally to anti-submarine warfare. Now they have to use all the ships, all the aircraft, all the helos have to start looking for that submarine, because the one submarine can sink most of the ships and is very hard to find.
Corner Brook is 70 meters from stem to stern, about half the length of a football field, and only 7 meters wide. 53 crew live and work aboard her. These deep water vessels are high-tech, but working on a sub is still extremely dangerous. Submarine crews have a love-hate relationship with the sea. The only way for a sub to submerge is to take on a controlled amount of water, but taking on too much water is fatal.
The two biggest concerns on a submarine are fires and floods. So you never want to allow water inside where normally water isn't. So because the physics of the submarine are so important, if you start adding too much weight and you can't recover, then you can't get to the surface, and then you have a major accident. Fire, equally just as dangerous, because it's such an enclosed environment and you can't just instantly come up to the surface to clear the air. It becomes very dangerous if there is a fire.
HMCS Corner Brook is known as a long-range hunter-killer. With her armament, she's a real underwater threat. She is armed with 18 Mark IV torpedoes, but her strength is her stealth.
We can be very, very quiet. If we didn't want to be found, that could be easily done. Normally, they wouldn't know we're coming, they wouldn't know we're there, and they wouldn't know once they've been attacked.
She is covered in rubber tiles that mute the sound of her engines. The rubber also helps to hide her from enemy sonar. That means she can track vessels without being detected.
She has a multitude of sonars, passive and active, long range, medium range, so anywhere from a few meters to over the horizon capabilities, so we can detect ships over the horizon. So shipping thumbing through the Northwest Passage, we can track for a few hours, a few days, depending on how far it is and the weather conditions.
Corner Brook is a silent assassin. Watching her submerge is like watching a killer whale dip beneath the waves. It may seem like overkill to have a submarine operating in a region this remote, but for Canada's Navy, it's essential.
The more activity that would occur in the north, the greater the likelihood there will be activity that's ongoing that is in contravention of law.
Canada is not the only country with submarines in her naval fleet. Subs from other countries have passed through here undetected. HMCS Toronto needs to know how to spot them. That's where Corner Brook comes in. She's going to give the crew of HMCS Toronto a run for its money up the Frobisher Bay.
Corner Brook herself will try and evade and put herself in a position to do an attack herself on the Toronto. So it's a cat and mouse game, and it's classic submarine warfare.
One of the key elements of detecting and tracking any submarine is the acoustic conditions. And so the only way you can practice operating in the acoustic conditions that are specific to the Arctic is being in the Arctic.
We're going to be doing a little bit of familiarization for the Toronto's crew in order to show them what a submarine looks like once it's submerged, as well as what the masts look like out of the water, because it is very hard to recognize a submarine if you were in the open ocean, and if by chance you actually were to encounter one that was on the surface, what it would actually look like.
HMCS Toronto was built for waging war on water. Her massive engines make high-speed pursuits easy for a vessel her size.
This ship is definitely a sports car. We have two LM2500 General Electric gas turbines, and they produce 25,000 shaft horsepower each, so 50,000 horsepower. So we can essentially come up in speed extremely fast if we have both those engines online.
But waging war against an underwater adversary is a different matter altogether.
When we're maneuvering, there's a few things that are really important to know. A, where the ship we're trying to avoid is, and how far she is. The objective is to get close, but not too close. We want to stay at least 1,400 yards away from the submarine at all times. Stand by, midship. Port 15.
Quick handling of this warship requires quick thinking, or maybe no thinking at all.
It's really all about timing. Like sometimes you get a feel for it, right? And so you're coming around and you're like, okay, you want to maintain it, and you're just like looking at it and you're like, okay, this feels right, and you're just on the edge. Then all of a sudden you're like, starboard 30, and then when everything starts going, right? And then it's just kind of like a climax. Then you're just like, you feel that rush of like the whole ship going, woo, tilting to one side. It's like kind of a cool thing to do.
Toronto, this is Corner Brook, ready to commence KSX Alpha 5 whenever you're ready, over.
Toronto Charlie Oscar, Roger. I will do a 180 here to starboard and effect run plan Alpha.
This is Corner Brook, Roger.
Okay. 1,500 yards
HMCS Toronto turns around to allow herself to be chased by Corner Brook. It's not easy to hide a 5,000-ton warship in a narrow strait. Corner Brook is in hot pursuit of Toronto.
HMCS, contact now tracking north. Assess a possible submarine. Recommend that we conduct underwater resolve and deploy sonobuoys. Sonobuoy 1 is deployed. Copy.
Operations room officers use sonar to gather information about where Corner Brook might be hiding. It's a covert way to track the submarine from a distance.
When we go by the submarine or we think an area where a submarine is, we're going to throw something in the water called a sonobuoy. It's an expendable hydrophone is what it is. The sound that's received through the hydrophone is actually transmitted back to the ship. So my sonar operators down in the operations room can look at the information, passive information of what's being heard in the water. So it's a way of listening to a submarine without being right on top of them.
For any type of warfare, the operations room is really the brain of the ship. This is the nerve center. All the sensors are fed into here, and all the war-fighting decisions are made out of here. You see all the fancy driving up on the bridge, but really all the sensors and all the information and war-fighting comes out of the operations room.
Tracking a sub is dangerous. If you get too close, you can give away your location and quickly become a target yourself. It's nearly impossible for a single warship to engage a submarine and come out the winner. The officer of the watch sends out the Sea King helicopter to assist with the tracking.
We carry torpedoes on board. If we're against a submarine, we'll actually load them onto the Sea King. She can carry 2 torpedoes, and we'll generally try to send it out and use it to conduct any attacks that are necessary against a submarine. The last thing we want to do is to try to engage a submarine close range because it has the advantage.
Range.
1100 yards closing.
Very good.
Corner Brook suddenly goes on the offensive. Picking up speed, the sub closes in on Toronto. The ship is forced to take quick, evasive action.
Stand by for heavy roll to port.
Starboard 30.
Starboard 30.
30 starboard wheel on, sir.
Very good. I'm going to start a 30-degree weave pattern, sir, once I steady up.
The officer of the watch orders the ship to take a continuous S pattern. This should throw off the sub's sonar.
What we're doing here is to present a difficult situation for the submarine. So by changing our angle on the bow that she sees on us and changes in speeds, she has to essentially assess what we're doing, how close we're coming, if we become a threat.
Gauge your distance and maintain the 1,300 yards.
Yes, sir. East of 15.
East 15. Range 1,300 yards. Opening.
Toronto's evasive maneuver worked. The warship has saved herself. By aggressively pursuing Toronto, the sub has given away her precise location. The officer of the watch relays the sub's coordinates to the Sea King crew. The hunter has now become the hunted. The air crew has located and identified the sub. A virtual torpedo dropping out of the sky quickly ends the cat-and-mouse game.
Today's anti-submarine warfare exercise we did was a great success, especially for our officers of the watch. As you saw, Lieutenant Monteith was very busy driving the ship around, so excellent for us. As well for the submarine, this is really intense for them, for their officers on board, who are actually looking through the periscope and trying to make the assessment on what our ship is doing.
You can't help but be excited after what just happened. We get to drive a ship, 30 plus knots and just like curve it around. It was pretty amazing. Yeah, it's definitely one of the cooler things you get to do when you're a watchkeeper.
We always train for any possibility, so if we're called upon to come up here and do surveillance and possibly look for a submarine, then we're fully capable of doing that. If Corner Brook needs to come up here and operate, then I know they're more than capable of doing that as well.
The anti-submarine war game wraps up, and so does Operation Nanook. The soldiers who have spent the last 4 days living off the land in the Arctic tundra now return to HMCS Toronto for the long voyage home.
That was a good challenge for the soldiers. It tested them physically in an area that they're unfamiliar with. So that gave the soldiers a little more confidence in some of the equipment they had, some of the directional equipment, their compasses, their map using skills, and that sort of thing. So it was a good training tool for the soldiers, and it benefited them greatly. And it's helping all us Canadians, I think, have a better appreciation for up here in the north.
Training for a crisis scenario here in the north has helped the Canadian forces sharpen their ability to operate in this region. This military show of force was designed to tell the world that Canada has the might, the skill, and the will to control the Arctic.
It's important for Toronto to be in the north. As time marches forward, we, the Canadian Navy, will become more and more proficient in operating in an ocean that really we've only been visiting regularly in the last 5 or 6 years. You need to have an understanding of what is happening in the domain or the areas that you're claiming as sovereign, and you have to have the capacity to act. And that's no small feat for the Canadian Arctic. It's huge. You're talking about an archipelago and a water mass that is the size of continental Europe. It's a hostile, harsh domain, so to be able to operate and claim sovereignty over this is a big task, and I believe we're approaching it the right way.